My name is Christian. I am the marketing director here at RMI. I've got Dom with me here, and our head of content and social media, Hannah, is in the chat monitoring. We are starting promptly at 5:30 PST. I think people will keep trickling in over the next few minutes, but we'll get this rolling. Just a couple of logistical things before we get started. We can't see you guys. We're just talking to the screen here. So feel free to be active in the chat. Let us know where you're from. If you have questions, feel free to put those in, and we'll flag them. We'll save them all for a Q&A at the end, but we will assuredly get to them all. This is only our second webinar we've done, so we're still figuring out a few of the technological kinks. So bear with us if anything goes wrong there. But yeah, I'll hand it over to Dom, and then I'll pop back up during the Q&A to kind of moderate that. Yeah, go for it, Dom.
All right. Well, welcome. We thought of this webinar just because I moonlight in the office when I'm not guiding any of the mountains that I am in the winter and the summer. And so I'm answering all the time when the best time to climb Mount Rainier is. And so we figured we'd just get everybody in a group and get everybody informed at the same time and videotape it so that other people in the future can watch it. And maybe my inbox won't keep blowing up with when should I climb Mount Rainier. We'll start with just a little bit of an introduction of me, and then we'll just jump into the brass tacks of it. Right? We want all the information. And so my name is Dominic Cifelli. I live in North Bend, Washington with my wife and my two dogs. And hopefully one of my dogs don't come in with the squeakiest toy they can find during the webinar, but time will tell. Time will tell. I've been guiding for 12 years now. And yeah, I spend most of my time on the big mountains, but also on Rainier in the summers. And so what that looks like a typical year for me is Rainier in the summer, followed by a Mexico or an Ecuador, a Vincent climb, an Aconcagua. And then this year I'm actually missing early season to head over to Everest and skipping Denali this year. So a little bit more time in Washington, which will be nice, and a little bit more sunshine. But that's just a little bit about me. And so, yeah. This is just the flow of what we'll be talking about, right? We're just doing a little bit of an intro. Obviously, it would take us a long time for all 100 plus of you to introduce yourselves. So yeah, jump in the chat like Christian said and introduce yourselves. It's a good community here, and it's good to get to know people, and maybe you see someone that's near you in location and you find a new climbing partner out of this. So let's hope that happens. Let's get informed, and hopefully you're a climber with RMI, but if not, hopefully this informs you too, and you come say hi in Ashford when you're swinging by. What's nice about this format is, it's just me talking right now, which can be good, can be bad, but I can say whatever I want about the Seahawks and no one can chirp at me. So go Seahawks. They're the best team in the world, and they're going to kick the Patriots' butt in the Super Bowl. And I think everybody in the world is rooting for the Seahawks except for the New England side. Go Hawks. Yeah, that's right. So like I said before, I get this question so many times about when the best time to climb Mount Rainier is. When should I climb Mount Rainier? When is the chance of success the best, right? And there's so much nuance, so much that goes into when to climb Mount Rainier that it's worth chatting about. It's worth doing a webinar about. And so we'll answer or try to answer all the questions that you've had, common questions that I get. And if you have any lingering questions about anything that I'm talking about, jump in the chat. Christian and Hannah do a great job of flagging these questions, and we'll get to answering it at the end for a little Q&A session, all right? But there's so many different reasons for people to choose a different time to climb, right? It really depends on what you're looking to get out of it, right? Obviously, the summit is always going to be the cherry on top. But if you're using Rainier as a stepping stone or using Rainier as a training ground, it could be better or worse to go at certain times of the year, depending on what your future climbing looks like. Okay. And so it ebbs and flows about when you want to come climb Rainier, and we'll get into it and just walk through a little bit of a flow of when to come climb. Obviously, it's different every single year, right? We watch the weather all winter. Maybe you're looking at the weather right now and not going skiing at your favorite ski resort because of it. But so much of our weather, so much of our snowpack comes in the later season, say like April or March, when the ski resorts start waning, that it's hard for us to tell right in the moment, right in the winter, when to come climb Rainier is based on the conditions, right? We just don't know. Everybody's got an opinion about how the winter's going for the upper mountain, but eventually we just have to walk up there and go see for ourselves. And gosh, it changes all the time. It's a rapidly changing mountain, and different things in the summer can certainly affect how the route holds up. Okay. And that could be a heat dome that comes out. It could be a smoke season that is particularly bad. It's just how it plays out in the summer. And obviously it changes all the time. But other things change too on the mountain from early season to late season, right? It's how fast the route is to climb. It's when you're going to wake up in the middle of the night to go climb, whether or not you wake up in the middle of the night to go climb. Other climbing objectives in the future, and then how crowded it is. And it all changes as the season goes on. And so we'll start with what the early season offers, and why you would choose the early season for climbing Mount Rainier, right? And I think just the biggest difference in the early season versus the other parts of the season, whether it's peak or whether it's late, is snow coverage. Right? It just makes the biggest difference in how consistently you move, how long you're wearing those boots, how filled in the upper mountain is, and just how circuitous the route can be. And oftentimes in the early season, with all the snow coverage, it's pretty direct, right? It's a more direct route to Camp Muir, and it's a more direct route that we can take from Camp Muir to the summit because all of those crevasses haven't started opening yet. The season of snow from the winter has covered those crevasses, and we're able to walk over those bridges because they're at their strongest in that part of the year. And so it can be quite a direct route, and it can be quite consistent climbing. Right? We're not having to hook around crevasses or go over steeper points. We're not as limited as to where we can go on the mountain, and we can choose the best route that we can possibly take to get to the summit, which is quite nice, honestly, right? If you were to ask any guide when their favorite time to climb is, I bet it's going to be early season. It's just when the mountain's at its most pristine. It's not gotten the rock or the wind blowing the dust or the rocks off of the ridges onto the snow. It's pristine. It's less crowded. And when the going is good, it is great, right? Guide love early season. It's a good picture, right? Not the one of me, the one behind it. Right? That's also a picture of mine. That's actually on the Disappointment Cleaver itself. And so we had gone off of the Ingraham Direct to go onto the Cleaver at this point, and the whole Cleaver is snow covered, which is ideal. If you've attempted Rainier before, if you go on the Reddit threads, I bet if you even ask ChatGPT what the Cleaver is like, it's just steep rock. It's kind of awkward to be on, big steps. Whereas in the snow, on the route, you can kind of make your own steps and make it super manageable. Us as guides, we're breaking in the route. We're creating these footsteps, these staircases that make it quite manageable to climb. And it's quite consistent with our pace and also the terrain and steepness of that terrain that we encounter. And so It's just when the going's good, it is fantastic. But there's obviously downsides to the early season as well, right? The weather is a little more finicky, okay? We get a lot of our snow, like I had said before, in the April, May, and June months. And that snow tends to be a little bit more warm, okay? Or it's rain down low and snow up high. And why that's good is warm snow or warmer weather snow tends to stick a little bit better on the upper mountain, where that really cold, powdery snow tends to just get blown off. You kind of think of the Utah snow versus a typical snow in the Pacific Northwest. That snowball snow versus the sugary powder. That snowball snow tends to be a little more wet, sticks better to things, including the upper mountain. And so that's why a lot of our snowpack may come from those later months, or just when the winter has been particularly warm. But that does happen, right? So there's a lot of inversion that happens. There's a lot of cloud layers that happen. And it definitely is a little bit more of a coin toss as to if the weather is going to be the premier weather for going to the summit. Obviously, going to the summit isn't a guaranteed thing. And so it's definitely a chance you take with the early season. But if you're able to go to the early season and come climb with us in the early season, and you get a little bit lucky, we all like a little dice roll, it's freaking good. So I hope you come climb in the early season. I won't be around actually, but darn is it good when the getting's good. It's good training as well for different peaks that you may have that are more expeditionary style. So Vinson, Denali, things like that. It's good training for that, where you don't necessarily get to choose your weather and you're going to be exposed to a big swath of weather on those trips. You shouldn't go to a Denali trip or an Antarctica trip and expect the weather to be crystal blue every single second of every single day. You're going to have some bad weather days, and it's just good training to get your systems and get everything dialed so that when that weather inevitably happens on those expeditions and on those trips, you're ready to go. You've tested that gear and you're more prepared and more mentally prepared as well to handle that adversity, since it's just such a big portion of these expedition trips. And so early season's great for handling weather on bigger expeditions. Not everybody comes to climb in May or April or in early June. And so you get a quieter route, and it's a little more consistent when we climb, right? It's definitely my favorite. I'm a little biased in that, but I think if you have the opportunity to come climb in May or June, you should come do it. But obviously there's a reason people like the peak season, right? It's when the getting's the best or the weather's the best, right? It's just more consistent. So Seattle is known for its really, really rainy winters, but you really don't get much rain in the summer. So fun fact, okay, Chicago gets as much rain as Seattle does, right? The same amount of average rainfall, but Seattle gets it in a big chunk of months, say November to April, whereas Chicago gets it throughout the whole year. There's regularly 100 days, 90 days that all of Washington state just gets not even a drip of rain. And so when you're in the meat and potatoes of July, June, or August, you have a really good chance of getting a good weather window. And so if predictability, if Rainier is your crown jewel, if that's your main objective and you want some more static predictability to the weather, at least, yeah, I mean, the peak season is the time to go. Okay. And a little definition helps with where the peak season is, right? And it obviously ebbs and flows. It's not static every year. It's not like right after June 15th, the weather starts getting good. But I would label the peak season to be somewhere June 20th to August 15th-ish, right? It's a big chunk of time. But just like planning on trips for any national park, it's going to be crowded. Okay. The lower mountain is definitely going to be crowded down at Paradise and the lower trails. And everybody that's coming to climb independently is going to go for that predictability to just take out an extra layer of question marks. And so that predictability is super important for independent climbers, and Camp Muir can be regularly pretty crowded, and the route can be pretty crowded as well. But the route itself is a little bit more established, right? We've had a lot of time to work on that route to really make it what we want it to be. And it kind of looks like that picture in the top left, where it's a little troughed out, and it is truly like a trail. All three of the guide services that have a concession on Mount Rainier work dang hard to maintain that route and make it so that it's super guidable and super climbable. It's a misconception that the national park has anything to do with the route itself. It's the guide services that really put in the work. And so if you are an independent climber on this call and you pass a guided team, just give us a little thumbs up so you like the route, right? It really goes a long way. And we're your closest resources as well. So I hope we can all play nice together. It's a little less static, the peak season, right? That route can be a little bit more dynamic. As the glacier starts opening up, it becomes more circuitous. We have to add some ladders, maybe some fixed lines, maybe some pickets on the route itself, just to protect against, say, the crevasse that we're crossing, or any of those bridges that we're having to cross. And so, yeah, hopefully you're climbing with us. But if you are an independent climber on this call, don't be afraid to ask us about how to properly protect those sections. We're happy to help anybody to get through those as fast as we can. We're kind of one community up there on the upper mountain, and we want to all move through these pieces of complex terrain efficiently, and we're willing to help anybody that we can out. But those are some of the perks of the peak season. It's obviously a little bit more trafficked, but you get a little bit more predictability in the weather, right? Obviously, wind can happen. Storms can still happen in the summer. It's not a guarantee that you have the most bluebird day, but after July 4th, it's pretty darn good. Right. And so if you're looking for a good intro into alpine climbing, you have some more objectives in Mexico or Ecuador or something like that. It's a great intro into just testing your mettle in a new experience and having a summit be very attainable at that time of year. Right. It's best for people that may not be looking to go to a Denali. That might not be the crown jewel. And Rainier is just the first step. You just want to see if you even like the thing. And before you decide if you even like the thing, just give it a week after you get back down from Mount Rainier. Trust me. Maybe you'll think that you love it right afterwards, but a lot of people come down and are pretty darn tired. Late season. Okay. This is when the route starts getting a little more complicated. It kind of transitions from a beginner route into a more complex, more advanced route, because we just have to add more things in order to make it a viable route to climb, right? That's more ladders. That's longer ladders. Maybe not as long as in the Khumbu. We're not stringing 8 to 10 ladders together. Don't worry, right? But we're certainly having a decent bit of ladder crossings. And if you look at picture number 2, that's more or less what the ladders will look like, okay? There's boards on those ladders, and we're able to step on those boards with our crampons. We're not just balancing our crampons on the rungs of the ladder. They're manageable. Don't be scared of these ladders or these fixed lines or the increased infrastructure on the route. They're there to help us, but they can make a pretty cool picture, pretty cool Instagram. We ask that you definitely don't just go on live stream on the ladders itself. Don't talk to your followers on the ladder, but it's super manageable. And I think people come away with a totally new experience when they're climbing in the later season, because it's more of an adventure climb, right? The mountain is so dynamic. When the glacier starts breaking up the way it does in the late season, things can move and shift from night to night, from day to day. And so we can do a lot of route finding and circuitous routes in order to get around these big crevasse complex and make the route go to the summit. And it can be quite fun. And I think a lot of people come away from it with a greater sense of what it's like to navigate a glacier, why we went a certain way. And you get a couple ladder crossings and a couple of fixed lines and a couple of steep sections that make it really engaging and fun to climb in the late season. But it's definitely not for everyone, right? People don't want to cross ladders. They're very scared of it. They don't want to make it more of an endurance effort than it ever was before. And that's kind of what the late season is. It's for those really mentally tough folks that want to come and want to seriously challenge themselves and push themselves past their comfort zone and get this totally new experience that you can't get anywhere else in the lower 48. But there are some cons of the late season too, right? I mean, the route is longer, especially compared to the early season. The route can take just a longer day to get up. Sometimes it can be 6.5, almost creeping up to 7 hours to get to the top, whereas you might be able to get to the top and back in 9 hours in the early season. And so it can definitely be longer. It's not always for the faint of heart, but it's quite rewarding. It's quite adventurous, and it's quite fun to kind of be there as everyone figures it out together and maybe changes the route just a little bit if you're lucky enough to do that. It's fun. Okay. You also get a little bit of a colder climb as well. The peak season, what we didn't mention before, is that it can be freaking hot. Okay. I know we're on a glacier. I know we're on snow, but sometimes it's just 90 degrees out, right? And with the sun reflecting off the snow and the heat of the day, the heat of the air, it can be hot in that peak season. And it starts to wane as the season creeps on and you start getting away from the solstice. And so, yeah, there's longer summit days. Yeah, there's longer ladder crossings and cooler nights, but dang, it's cool to be up there when the glacier looks like that. I guarantee you it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen before because it's so dynamic. And so I really suggest the late season for the super adaptable, for the people that want to show all their friends how freaking crazy their climb was, because all your family members are going to be wondering what it's like. And it's quite fun to be there in the late season and be up there when the glacier is so dynamically changing. It's a good prep for people that are looking to go to the Himalayas, right? I say that because a lot of the infrastructure that's there, the fixed lines, the ladders, the steeper sections of climbing, they're present in the Himalayas, right? They're there because when you climb in the Himalayas, oftentimes, especially in the spring, you're climbing in the later part of their season to avoid the wind. And so that later season is a great prep for Nepal style, Himalayan style climbs, or people that are really looking to have longer summit days, to see how they handle those summit days and how they'll handle those summit days in the bigger mountains that are out there and are there to climb. There's less crowds too, right? Obviously, every year is different though, okay? We've had the route go out on August 10th, and we took a week to fix it. We've had it go out September 15th, right? And so it's just a question mark as to how long the season will last. And every year is so different. And we can't guarantee that the route will be in when you come here to come climb it, because it's a glacier, it's a moving mountain. And as long as it doesn't blow up, right? No St. Helens on Mount Rainier, we're going to be able to get to the top eventually. Okay. And so it just takes a little bit of of soul searching for you to figure out when is the best time for you to climb, when is the best time for your future goals or your current goals to come here and test your mettle on Mount Rainier and really come test yourself in a scenario that you don't know if you're going to be able to do it, right? If you're on the fence of signing up for Mount Rainier because you're just not sure how to do it, reach out to us, right? I'll be in the office. Christian will be in the office. There's guides that work there that are able to talk to you and talk through it with you, whether you're looking for current route conditions or you're looking to see if you're ready mentally, physically to come climb Mount Rainier. And we'll tell you the most recent conditions as well. Use this as a hub to figure out if it's worth coming down and climbing and seeing if you got it in you. It's fun. So just a little bit of recap, right? Early season, right? Obviously, there's more snow. You're going to be moving more efficiently because you can really break in the trail the way that you want. Snow is so moldable in that time of year that it's smaller steps. We're able to really kick good staircases in it. And if you're looking to go to a Denali, a Vinson, a very heavily glaciated peak, early season is right for you. I know there's that big question mark of the weather, but there's always going to be that big question mark of the weather. And that weather is inevitably going to happen on bigger mountains. And so you might as well test yourself and test your gear in early season conditions to see how it fares, to see how you do, and to see if those bigger glaciated peaks are right for you before you dump all that time and resource into going into it. And so if you have the chance, if you have the time and the timing works out for you, early season is my favorite. Okay. If you're looking for more predictability in the weather, the wind, the route conditions, then that peak season is really good for you. But you're not going to get any solitude in that season, right? Camp Muir is going to be quite full. The route is going to have some people on it, right? And it's not going to be the Congo line that you see in the pictures of Everest or anything like that, but it's not going to be this soul-searching solitude experience that you might want and you might get in the early or late season. You got to ask yourself if you would go to Yellowstone in the peak season or you would wait for the shoulder seasons. And I think the same logic can apply here as to what you want out of it. But if you're just looking to test yourself, you want a little bit more predictability, some stability in your climb, then peak season. It's great. It's peak season for a reason. Okay. The going's good. And then late season. If you're more into endurance efforts, you don't really need to go to Denali or a Vinson, and you want to get more of a technical and endurance experience. The late season is a great opportunity to do that, and you get to see the glacier in its rawest form. When there's less snow, there's big blocks. It's really like walking through the moon. It's hard to describe what it's like unless you're there looking at it, about how impressive these glaciers can be and just how varied and broken up they can be. It's quite cool. People come away with it very wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and want to just like send some pictures and show pictures to family, especially in the late season, because the terrain just looks otherworldly. And so if you're looking for a more endurance-based effort, if you're looking for a more Himalayan experience, or you want to get the tools and know how to go climb those mountains and see how fixed lines work and see how longer ladder crossings work, then the late season is perfect. And it's quite varied, quite technical, and super, super fun if you're more into technical aspects of climbing and maybe a little bit more advanced. Okay. And so it just depends on what's right for you, what you're looking to get out of it, and how you want to come climb. Okay. Let's go through some questions.
All right. I'm back.
Hey.
All right. So that was great, Dom. Thank you. We'll go through questions now, just kind of oldest to newest. I will put the question up and read it out, and then you can give us an answer.
Yep.
So this first question, when is the best time to climb with high chance of summit and the smallest crevasse crossings?
I'd probably say somewhere in June, right? June is still can be pretty high pressure. It starts transitioning from the early season to the late season. And so if you're looking for the least amount of crevasse crossings while still getting the stability of the high season, somewhere in June, maybe a little bit leaking into early July, that would be the best time for you who asked that question.
Cool. The next one is the mountain experiencing the low snowpack that we are seeing in some of the Cascades this year?
Say that one more time. Oh, is the mountain experiencing? Yes, a little bit, right? And so at least at the passes that people are skiing in, Stevens Pass and Crystal Mountain and Snoqualmie Pass, anywhere above like 5,000 feet is sitting at like 80% of its normal, or anywhere below that's sitting about 50%. That being said, we just had that big flooding, that big storm that came through in December and dumped a bunch of warm moisture into the Cascades. And that really helps things like Rainier and Baker and Shuckson and those higher peaks that benefit from that warmer snow. Because of what we had talked about before, it's just a little stickier and sticks on the upper mountain. And so I just had a friend summit the other day and climb the ID and say it's quite good right now. And so, yes, of course, it affects the Cascades and all of those things, but it depends on which elevation band you're talking about. Anywhere above 8,000 feet right now is still sitting pretty good.
Great. All right. Can you define early, prime, and late season?
Yeah. I'll try to put some dates on it. Obviously, there's some margin of error there. And I want to say that the early season, at least for us at RMI, is starting in late April. That's when we start getting onto the mountain. We start developing the route and we start climbing. Okay. And so it starts in April and goes early season probably until June 15th, June 20th, right? That's when I would still consider it early season, where June is really this like big transition period, and that perfect transition can happen earlier or later depending on the year. And so that prime season is comfortably in July 1st and goes to August 10th, right? And then after that, you would start considering it late season.
Yeah, and I can add to that a little bit as well in terms of late season. You know, it's obviously different every year, but we've definitely seen that season shift a little bit. And the point at which we say, all right, the route is getting just a little too difficult to maintain with the guides we have, typically comes very late August or early September. We used to climb almost all the way through September, and that has definitely changed with some of the climate factors and stuff like that on the mountain. All right. What are the downsides of early season?
I think it is also the weather. It's a double-edged sword, right? And so that weather, that unpredictability, it can still be quite winterish in early season, and it's still a section of unstable weather. We're not quite in that high pressure that Washington experiences every year. And some weather systems can move in and create more snow and bad weather. Sometimes it's a maritime snowpack or a maritime weather system. And so those clouds can be quite low. And while it can be raining in Seattle and raining in Ashford, that base town at the base of Mount Rainier, it can still be quite good on Rainier itself. It can be above those clouds. And so, yeah, weather systems can still come in and it can still be quite finicky in May and June.
Cool. What is your favorite link for watching Rainier climbing conditions? Where do you get your info?
Well, I'm on the mountain, right? And so I think it's worth giving RMI a call or the guide services a call and just talking with us and getting the latest, right? There's not really a Instagram account or anything like that. The Climbing Rangers Instagram account will post some updates, but they're few and far between. And if you're lucky enough to get it right when you're about to go, then that's great. But it's worth giving us a call and checking in, or Cascade Climbers, peakbaggers.com to see what independent climbers are doing at that time.
Cool. Is RMI taking up groups right now in January?
No, we're not. No. With the road conditions and the national park being quite finicky with when it opens and all that stuff, they're stressed with some budget constraints, and we understand that, but we don't want to offer a trip that we cannot run. And so we don't take people up in January at the moment, just because we can't guarantee that the roads would be open and that we'd be able to get into the park.
Yep. How difficult is the route above the Cleaver, especially in terms of steep drop-offs?
Yeah, it depends, right? And that's like a famous guideline, honestly, right? Famously, you're not going to get a straight answer from any of the guides. There's always nuance to it or anything like that, but it definitely gets harder, right? The Cleaver can be quite difficult, and especially in peak season, that's what I'll give you the context for. I think in isolation, the Cleaver is the hardest part of the route, but you can't just take it in isolation. Okay, you have to continuously add on to the route or the section that you just climbed. And so while I do think the Cleaver in isolation is the hardest part, because of the altitude, because of the length of time that you've been at that altitude, yeah, it can be quite hard. Is there steep drop-offs? Yes, there can be, right? There can be slick snow slopes below you, but that's why we worked so hard to put that trail into the mountain and make it as safe as we possibly can.
Great. There's two questions here about the Emmons. I'm going to kind of combine them. How does the Emmons route compare to the DC? And do the DC seasons pertain to the Emmons route as far as the same pros and cons? And then the other part of that is the Emmons route less traveled than the DC during peak season?
I'll answer that second question first. The answer is just a quick yes, right? There's just way less people that go over to the Emmons side. It's a little bit less accessible from Seattle. And so a lot of the visitors that aren't even climbing are going into the Paradise section of Mount Rainier. And so that section, White River, is just quieter in general, and then less people are looking to go climb the Emmons route because it's a little less traveled, right? There's not the ladders, there's not the kicked-in route, there's not the guide services working their tail off to make that route over on the Emmons side, though of course we go climb it. And so it's a longer approach. It's a little more of an adventure climb, figure it out as you go kind of climb. And the season itself for the Emmons route is just shorter because there's not as much infrastructure that we can put into it. And it's just a longer approach to get to where the climbing happens, which is Camp Sherman.
We also typically can't even get into the Emmons until Memorial Day weekend with the road closures in the park. And so that kind of limits how much time we have to get that route in place and start climbing over there as well.
Yeah. And so I just want to answer the pros and cons of it is just pros. I think you get a little more solitude, especially in the peak season, right? You get more solitude. It's a beautiful side of the mountain. But it can be a pro or a con. You kind of have to figure it out on your own a little bit, right? There's not the flags that we put in on the DC route. You have to be a little more experienced to go over to the Emmons and climb that glacier and navigate that glacier itself. And so that can be a pro or a con depending on who you are, but it's definitely something to consider.
Nice. And we will be trying to do a couple more webinars before the Rainier season gets underway this year. One of those is hopefully going to look at some of the different routes and programs that we offer. And so we can get more into detail on that stuff there as well. All right, here's the next one. I hear the pace of RMI is pretty fast. In order to really enjoy the trip, what training targets do I need to achieve? One suggests 35 pounds at 2 hours for 3,000 feet and 3.5 miles.
D, if you can climb with 35 pounds on your back in 2 hours with 3,000 feet of gain and 3.5 miles, you'll be just fine, right? There's always going to be someone that comes and says that RMI climbs too fast, or any of the guide services that they climb with climbs too fast. That's valid in their perspective. But a lot of people also come that don't go on Reddit or don't go on to the reviews that think our pace is quite manageable. And so there's always that opposite side of the coin. And here at RMI, we're always trying to climb as slow as we safely can, right? A lot of the times when I'm talking to the folks that I'm climbing with, I liken it to two different things, okay? There's running up the stairs or running up the hill that you're trying to climb as fast as you possibly can, right? At the top of that hill, you wouldn't be able to think about anything but breathing, right? You'd be gassed, you'd be redlining yourself. We obviously don't climb like that. We would get 0 out of X amount of climbers that we take up to the summit, okay? That's not how we climb. But there's also a too slow for us as well, okay? You can picture yourself just standing in the room that you're in right now for 16 hours, okay? If you were just standing there on your feet for 16 hours, at the end of that, you would be exhausted. We've had those days that you've just been on your feet for a little too long and you're tired, even though you've just been standing there. Now we have to put that into context of climbing the tallest mountain in Washington in the middle of those 16 hours, and it just becomes unattainable in that sense, right? We want to go as slow as we safely can because the longer we're out on the mountain, the longer we're exposed to the objective and the subjective hazards that Mount Rainier poses, and we can't just take all day to do it, right? And so there is such a thing as too slow, and we try to really pinpoint that slow as we safely can in order to get as many people as we can to the summit, while also maintaining a reasonable margin of safety as we do it. And so sometimes people fall below that slow as we safely can, and we have to be thinking of the group at large. And unfortunately, they come back and say, we just go too fast. I disagree, right? Wholeheartedly, but their opinion is fair. Okay. If you can do that 35 pounds, 2 hours, 3,000 feet, 3.5 miles, you're going to be just fine, D.
And again, we are going to hopefully have a Rainier training webinar as well coming up relatively soon. And hopefully Dom will be involved with that one because he has a ton of experience in this. So, yeah. Which season has the highest summit success?
Peak season. It's the most stable weather. It's just when we're climbing every day. We run more climbs in the peak season as well as the weather is just more stable. It allows us to get to the summit more often. It's not guaranteed, right? But the weather is pretty darn good in the summers in Washington. It doesn't rain.
Another training question, so we'll just kind of go quick on this one, but is there a suggested training program for getting ready for the climb, especially if I have not climbed before?
Loaded question. Go to Alpine Training Systems. It's a training coaching business that I own myself. And so a little plug for me right now. Good question, Amy, right? But I offer 16-week training programs, 12-week training programs, 24-week training programs that you can go and there's a lot of metrics and just insights from current guides that are working in the mountains that you're looking to go climb. And so, yes, there are training programs out there. And even if you don't choose to come to ATS, Alpine Training Systems, to go get your training program, there are other options out there. There's Evoke Endurance, there's Uphill Athlete. There's a lot of resources out there. I personally think we're the best, but I don't want to push it too hard.
Nice. Are there limits to the total climbers allowed on the mountain for each season?
Technically, yes, right? So we're limited per trip, basically, about how many users we can have on the mountain. That's like the MPS lingo, users, at one time in given zones. And so on each climb, there's going to be 4 guides and 8 climbers, and there's 2 of those that go up each day. Sorry, excuse me. And so yes is the quick answer. And in a given season, there's limits on the independent climbers and a limit to all the concessionaires.
Yep. Do I do my own permitting with the park?
I assume you're an independent climber if you're asking that. And then if you're not, if you climb with RMI, no, you don't do your own permitting. We handle all of that. And it's a good way to get a permit if you're struggling to get one now that it's a lottery system. If you're an independent climber, then yes, it is that lottery system to go climb on a certain day. And you have to go to rec.gov to go get that.
Yeah. Is topping out considered summiting, or is getting to Columbia Crest the true summit?
Ooh, good question. So we consider the crater rim to be the summit of Mount Rainier, okay? And it was just highlighted by the fact that Columbia Crest is no longer the high point of Mount Rainier. It's like this, gosh, there's a lot of discrepancy about what we call that thing. The dirt hump, we'll call it, over to the south side of Columbia Crest. That's become a little bit higher because of the melting snow on Columbia Crest. Columbia Crest was a snow summit. And so yes, we consider the crater rim, getting into the crater, to be the summit because you're on top and there is a tippy top, but it takes 35, 40 minutes to go round trip. And if you're not feeling it, you're feeling altitude, yes, of course, we consider the crater rim to be the top.
I've done it both ways. I've gone to the tippy and I've been gassed and been like, nope, I'm going to sit here for 30 minutes, and both have been great. If the route is out and the guides know it will take multiple days to fix, do they notify the scheduled climbing teams and somehow reschedule, or do they still just go up to Camp Muir and back without a summit attempt due to the route being down?
It depends on when it happens, right? And so if it happens in the middle of your trip, there's just not that much we can do about it. And so we're trying to fix it as fast as we possibly can. We don't necessarily know that it'll take multiple days to fix, and it just depends on the problem that we're facing. But we're honest as we possibly can be when that happens, right? If you were to show up for orientation and the route was out, we would tell you right away that it was out, and we can decide what to do from there or what you can do individually. But rest assured that we're sending multiple people up there to go attack that route and try to get it in as fast as we possibly can, so that not only we can climb it, but the independent climbers that are up there can as well.
Nice. I don't have mountaineering experience. Mount Rainier is the only goal. The other guide company said 1,000 feet per hour with a 40-pound load. If RMI expects faster than that, should I not sign up?
That is what we say as well, right? And so that's the target that we're going for, about 1,000 feet an hour, okay? And so that's what we expect as well. I don't think you should shy away from RMI because people on Reddit are saying it's faster than that, because that's the answer you'll get from us as well. The only reason I was answering D in a different way is because there was just a different example of feet per hour, but it was a great call by Uchika to call that out. And yeah, that is what we expect. And I just forgot to say it during that answer. Thank you.
Nice. What's the recommended maximum age limit for a climb?
It depends on you, right? I've had a 76-year-old woman come climb Orizaba with me, right, down in Mexico. And so it's just so personal. There's not necessarily an age limit. It just depends on how fit you are. And we apply the same rules as we apply everyone else when we're assessing whether or not you're going to be able to get to the top with the group.
Nice. What about the Couts route? I assume this is in kind of relations to the Emmons questions about all those details.
Peak season and whatnot. There's different times to climb the Couts route depending on what you would like, right? Just like the DC route. In later season, there's more penitentes, which are just shark fins that come up from the snow. We won't walk into that. Look it up, penitentes. But the Couts route is quite icy in the late season, quite fun. There's more pitches of ice. And so if you're looking for more alpine ice a little bit later in the season, later July, early August is a great time to go climb it. But if you're looking for maybe an intro into that alpine ice or steeper snow earlier in the season can be great. It's the same as the Emmons route. We don't maintain that route. We don't kick it in. We don't flag it. We don't put ladders on that route. And so the same kind of weather window applies where that peak season is.
Nice.
Though I wouldn't go too far into August because those penitentes are quite hard to manage. And above the Couts, ice chute is quite hard to navigate and can be quite broken up.
All right. I have climbed the mountain several times in the past, as well as others. It's been a number of years since my last climb on any mountain. I've had multiple surgeries to fix the moving parts. I'm 73. Which season would you suggest? I have a thought, but want to hear your view.
Yeah, I think peak season is going to be your time, my man. Right? It's just the most stable, the most uh, kicked in route. I think if you have multiple hinges and screws and all that stuff, you want a little bit more of consistency in the route that you're using, and a reassurance that it's built in, kicked in, and ready for you. Hopefully that's what you thought too, Tom.
How do the different seasons impact the level of gear you need?
It doesn't, is the quick answer, right? We would provide all of the gear that you may need for the later season. It might just change the gear that I carry myself as the guide. It wouldn't affect what you carry, though there are some nuances with what boots you would have, or the parka, or anything like the warm weather gear, though nothing is added or subtracted from the gear list necessarily. But I might just carry more infrastructure on my harness, like more ice screws, or more cords, in order to help manage that risk, right? And so, yeah, in early season, you're going to be asked to wear double boots most likely, though anywhere our line is like 10,000 foot freezing level. Anywhere below 10,000 foot freezing level, we ask for double boots. Anywhere above there, it's okay to wear singles. And so that's like the main thing that changes.
And, the weather plays a huge part here too. If things change, 2 days before your climb, when you get there for an orientation, you don't want to be showing up to base camp because you thought it was going to be a beautiful sunny climb, and all of a sudden you're underprepared with weather rolling in. So what you bring up on the mountain and what you wear might shift a little bit, but making sure you have the entire gear list at base camp is super important. All right. Will all team members know how to do crevasse rescue?
No, all guides will, though, obviously, right? No, you're not required to know crevasse rescue. All right. One of the best reasons to come climb with us is that, yeah, it can be a great intro to the mountaineering world. And like I had said before, there's 4 guides to 8 climbers on each team. And so if a guide were to fall into a crevasse, which I'm sure you're thinking is the problem with my logic, there's 3 other guides to come and perform crevasse rescue. And so you will be asked to be able to self-arrest. That's one of the parts of the training day that we do on the second day of our climb. But no, you don't need to know how to perform crevasse rescue.
Nice. Are avalanches ever a concern on this climb? And do you recommend carrying avalanche gear?
Yes and yes, right? So avalanches can, of course, be a problem on the route. And that's one of the things about early season as well, right? Avalanches can form at any point where there is active snowfall, or a little bit after as well. And so, of course, it's a consideration when we're thinking about whether or not we're going climbing or can go climbing. And so the quick answer is yes, avalanches are definitely something that is forward in our minds, especially in the early season. And avalanche gear, you're required to carry an avalanche transceiver, though all of the guides carry the rest of it and know how to rescue in the case of an avalanche. The avalanche gear or the avalanche transceiver is mandatory whether or not you're climbing in early season or late season. It's mandated by the national park, and I think for good reason too. A lot of people are in the late season ask why I even carry this, but though there's not a chance of avalanche per se, there's still a chance of ice fall or something like that can occur, that we would still be able to, or need to be able to, find you in that case, right? And so yes and yes.
Nice. What happens if weather conditions impact your ability to summit? Are you able to stay on the mountain an extra day to wait for a better weather window?
It depends on what climb you're on, right? And so there's a 4-day climb, and there's a 5-day climb, and then there's a seminar as well. Okay. And a 4-day climb is 2 days on the mountain itself, where you have the opportunity, or 1 day really, where you have the opportunity to go summit. And the reason you would sign up for a 5-day climb is because it gives you just that extra day of assurance that if it's not good on that first day, you can go the second day, and vice versa. And so on a regular 4-day climb, no. there's not an ability to just stay on the mountain and go, because there's more people that are coming up from Paradise that booked a different time window, and we're limited by those user days.
Yeah. Do we ever overnight at Ingraham Flats?
No, we don't. We have 50% of the concession, which basically works out to be every night at Camp Muir in the brass tacks of it, right? And so, no, we always stay at Camp Muir, and there's pros and cons to going up to Ingraham Flats or staying at Camp Muir. And I think one of the obvious reasons you would go to Ingraham Flats would be to have a shorter summit day, but right, you also have to carry all the gear that you've been carrying from Paradise to Camp Muir up to Ingraham Flats then. And that can be a tall ask, especially for smaller people, that the percentage of their weight that the pack is higher, right? And so I think it's better and more advantageous to get a better rest at Camp Muir and then climb past there.
Nice. Any lower age limits or suggestions? Is 15 or 16 too young?
It is too young, even with parental consent or parental supervision. And so 18 is the limit.
Yeah, and that's Washington state guideline with insurance policies, unfortunately. When do you normally see the switch from double boots to singles? Talked about that a little bit.
It happens somewhere in June, typically, right, where the freezing level starts creeping up. It's that 10,000 foot freezing level, which you can see at Mount Rainier recreational forecast. That's a lot of the times what we look at when we're looking at the weather in our morning meetings. And it gives you just a good snapshot. It's from the University of Washington. They do a fantastic job. And if that is saying above 10,000 feet, singles is good. If they're saying below that, then doubles is going to be what you need. And so that happens sometime in June, typically.
Nice. If booking with RMI, how late can we wait? Does everything feel quickly, season dependent? Coming out to Mount St. Helens in July, still need a permit, seeing how I might also make a Rainier attempt, or if I should completely separate the trips.
Yeah, it does fill up quite fast, especially the middle of the season. You can picture that bell curve that happens for peak season and for signups, and you have a better chance to get on a trip, especially if you waited a little bit to get on the early season or the late season climbs, right? But there's no harm in putting yourself on the wait list and some climb in July that lines up with your St. Helens, and hopefully you get that permit and you get off of the wait list at the same time.
Yep. And finally, is there an option on any trip to spend a night at Camp Muir after summiting rather than only 1 hour of rest?
After summiting, sometimes, right? And so that's that 5-day climb. On that 5-day climb, I definitely prefer, I know a lot of guides prefer to summit on that middle day. And what I mean by that middle day, right? We do an orientation that first day, we do a training day that second day, and then the third, fourth, and fifth day, we're on the mountain. So that third day, we go up to Camp Muir, and there's the opportunity to summit either on that middle day, that fourth day, or that fifth day. If you summit on that fourth day, that's the beauty of it, right? You get to stay at Camp Muir. You don't have to go down to the parking lot, and you get a full night's rest at Camp Muir, enjoy the sunset, and wake up the next morning and go down to the parking lot.
Cool. So that is about all the time or questions we have time for. I know that there are still quite a few others in the chat, mainly about training and gear and stuff like that. Like I said, we'll hopefully be doing a couple webinars here in the near future to address those questions, so stay tuned. We've also got great resources on the site under our resources section that have whole Rainier gear guides, training manuals, stuff like that. Dom, I do think there was one that maybe you could put the 3 training companies you mentioned in the chat, just so that people have access to the names there. I could also put those in the email we can send out afterward. But like we said, there'll be another webinar where we can get more in depth on that at a later point. So thank you guys so much. This was a great second webinar, and hopefully you learned a little bit and aren't turned off by early or late season. There's some great experiences out there outside of peak season as well.
I think if you
Yeah.
have any questions or concerns or some lingering thoughts, give us a call in the office, right? We're there as a resource. We want to be this mountain hub for you guys, whether you're coming to climb with us or you're coming independently. We just want to be there to support the climbing community and help you achieve your goals, whether that's with us or by yourself. And so give us a call. We're happy to talk. We're happy to talk through gear. And yes, we do rent gear for the person who asked. And yes, the G-Techs are great boots for the person who asked. I just saw those lingering in the chat real quick. I had to answer it. But yeah, thanks for coming. Give us a call. Come talk to me in person, whatever you need. We're here to support you and the whole mountain community.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Have a great night.
Yeah.